Welcome into Sports Talk at the stadium from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, where tonight South Carolina lost another high-scoring heartbreaker, something that they have made routine this football season. They fall in overtime to Tennessee 45-42, the first ever overtime game here at Williams-Brice. And just like in the losses to Missouri, here in Columbia, and at Kentucky, the Gamecocks blew a two-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. This one might be even harder to take because it was later in the game that they lost the two-touchdown lead. The Gamecocks scored to go up 42-28 with just under 5 minutes to play, and they could not win the ball game from that point. Tennessee came back down the field after the Gamecocks went up by 2 scores and scored pretty quickly to get to within a touchdown. Tennessee attempted an onside kick, and South Carolina recovered. Pharaoh Cooper recovered the onside kick for the Gamecocks, and so they're in good shape with 1:50 to go, and they're at Tennessee's 43-yard line, up 7. All you got to do is run clock, have Tennessee use their timeouts, and you've got yourself a win. But Dylan Thompson was sacked on 3rd and 4, and that forced a punt from the Tennessee 45 into a very stiff wind. The punt carried 30 yards to the Tennessee 15. So with 1:23 to go, Tennessee's got to go 85 yards to tie the game. That's exactly what they did. Josh Dobbs moved his team down the field, and he capped the drive with a 9-yard touchdown pass to his tight end, Kroom. And that came with 11 seconds to play. Extra point tied the game. We go into overtime tied at 42. USC won the toss and elected to go out on defense first. Defense, pretty much did its job. It held Tennessee to a field goal. So Tennessee goes up 45-42. USC trots out on the field. Gamecocks had a little trouble moving the football. Dylan Thompson had another big game throwing. Brandon Wilds had 140-some-odd yards rushing. So Gamecocks had rolled up over 600 yards of offense. Spurrier came out wanting to throw the ball in overtime. First play, sack. Second play, sacked again. Third play, incomplete pass. And that forced the Gamecocks to attempt a 58-yard field goal by Elliott Fry, and it never had a chance. The ball barely got off the ground, and so Tennessee erupted, of course, on their sideline. Their fans who were still here, they had a great celebration because it's their first SEC victory of the season. So, people are screaming about South Carolina's defense, and they should. It is awful. Watching it again tonight, the tackling was just terrible. Various forms of defensive execution were just not there. It was another pretty much complete breakdown by the defense. But the offense, again, in this case of blowing a late lead, the offense, again, has to carry some of the blame because they could not muster a first down to keep possession of the ball. Thompson was sacked on 3 of his last 4 passing attempts. So the offense, didn't do a couple of things that they could have done to help run out the clock and seal this win. So I'm sure with the way the numbers look, and they are ugly for the defense at South Carolina, the majority of the blame is going to be put on the defense. And, they gave up 645 yards on 95 plays. But South Carolina's offense had 625 yards on 73 plays. That's the most yardage ever for a Steve Spurrier coach team at South Carolina. But the Gamecocks gave up 5 sacks. And as I mentioned, Thompson was sacked on 3 of his last 4 passing attempts, and that really hurt in the efforts of the offense to run out the clock. Again, much like the Auburn game and some of the other games, offensively, you had video game-like numbers to report here. Pharaoh Cooper was incredible. 11 catches, a USC record, 233 yards. He also had 3 rushes for 23 yards and a touchdown. He caught 2 touchdown passes. He also was 1 of 2 throwing the ball and had a touchdown pass as well. He did practically everything for the Gamecocks. Dylan Thompson was 20 of 32 for 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was intercepted once. I mentioned that Brandon Wilds had 143 yards rushing on 8 carries. On the other side, Dobbs for Tennessee, their quarterback, he had a Tennessee record for a quarterback, 166 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. Jalen Hurd had 125 rushing yards. Dobbs was also 23 of 40 for 301 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So he had a complete offensive game performance. So Spurrier was practically speechless after the game. He gave about a less than a minute statements expressing his dismay over this loss and how much it hurts. He did not take questions from the media. He got up and left after his statement. He will have a conference call on Sunday, at which time assuredly he will take questions from the media. But this one is going to take a long time for both the Gamecock players and fans to get over. The season now is practically lost. They have to focus on just trying to win enough games to get bowl eligible, and that will include having to win at Florida or at Clemson, assuming they can beat South Alabama here in their last home game. The Gamecocks get this week off. Then they go to Florida, which looked very good today in beating Georgia. Then they've got to go to Clemson, of course, to wrap up the season. So they're going to have to win at least one of those road games to become bowl eligible. Again, this team showed that it can play offense with anybody, but its defense can't stop a peewee team right now. So there are no answers. Lorenzo Ward's only response to the question, do you have an answer, is just go back to work. As he said, it can't get any worse. It can only get better. And that pretty much sums up the way it is with South Carolina's defense right now. So South Carolina loses a tough one at home in overtime to Tennessee, 45-42. And with that loss, the Gamecocks fall on the season to 4-5 and 2-5 in the SEC. So they are guaranteed a losing record in SEC play. We'll have more here on sportstalksc.com. Post-game reaction from the Gamecock locker room for you. And, of course, on Sunday, we'll have Spurrier's conference call covered for you on the website. We'll hear from you on Monday night on Sports Talk and get your thoughts about what went down tonight here at Williams-Brice Stadium.